What makes for an excellent thesis? Hi, I'm Gabby from mythesiscoach.com. I've written my own PhD thesis. I've supported clients from all over the world as they work on their own master's and PhD theses. So I think by now I've got a pretty good idea about the qualities of a really effective thesis. Let's start with number one. A really good thesis is aligned. So what do I mean by that? A really good thesis has strong research questions. Based on those research questions, a literature review is written which is aligned with those questions because it provides a good scholarly background to that. Then the methodology is aligned to the research questions and to the literature review because it's an effective and appropriate method to find out the answers to those questions. The data and the findings are then aligned to those because they are the effective outcome of the methodology which you've implemented to do that. And the discussion is aligned to all of those because, it unpicks those findings further and relates them back to the literature review. And then the conclusion answers those research questions. Can you see how there's a golden thread running through all those sections because it was based on good research questions and everything else was aligned from that? That's what I mean by that. So a good thesis is always aligned. The second factor is that a good thesis always has strong cohesion. So the reader moves through the document easily and smoothly. They understand how all the different sections relate to one another. They go on a journey with the writer. And as a writer, it's your job to explain to the reader where they're going. Explain why what you're sharing makes sense within the larger picture of the thesis. Take them on a journey so they never feel lost and think, what am I doing here? In that case, there's a lack of cohesion, and we definitely don't want that. Tied to that is my third aspect of an effective thesis, and that is that an effective thesis is very explicit. We should never be wondering, what's the writer trying to do here? Or why have they included this section? Or, God, they're describing all this data, but that doesn't relate to what I'm finding out. That should never be the case. A good thesis is explicit. It tells the reader what is being dealt with, why it's important, and what they should be taking out of the section or the chapter. That is your job as a writer, is to be explicit. The fourth quality of a really good thesis is that it uses plain English. Now, tell me, have you ever read one of those academic texts? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a journal article, but you sit down and you read it, and you spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours reading it, and you get to the end, and you don't know what just happened, because the words were long, the sentences were long, it was all unfamiliar, it was difficult to engage with. Now, I think that often passes as standard academic writing, but it doesn't need to be that. We, as thesis writers, need to do better. We need to use plain English. We need to use short, clear sentences. We need to use simple words wherever possible. If we have to use jargon, we have to explain it. We have to make it as simple and clear for the reader to engage with. And that's plain English, and that is the quality that we want to use in our theses, and that's what I see in really good theses. But finally, for point number 5, what makes a good thesis? The answer, my friends, is that a good thesis is a finished thesis. There is no such thing as perfect when it comes to thesis writing, because your thesis project just could go on and on forever as you keep adding, keep changing, keep making revisions. In order to really have a good thesis, you need to have a finished thesis. You need to know when to stop. You need to give yourself permission to say, this is enough. I've done what I needed to do. I asked questions at the beginnings. I've answered those questions in the project. Here's everything that I did. Here's my aligned, cohesive, clearly written thesis. And as soon as you've done that, that's the quality of a good thesis. So go ahead, subscribe to this channel so that you can be first to engage with new content, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again. Bye!